All right, lesson two, talking about variables some more. Today we are going to investigate. So, as a warm up, just a quick review, how does a baggie represent a variable? So it represents a variable because it stores a piece of information, which we call a value. And remember that it can only store one piece of information at a time. And just like and whenever we change the value, it completely removes the previous value. So we're going to go to bubble two. You're going to go to bubble two first on code.org. And I want you to just go there on your own and do these things that are listed at the top, or it's listed right here. You'll see your screen that looks like this, and your instructions are right there. You're going to run the app and you're going to predict the information that's being stored in variables. Is there one thing? Are there more than one thing that are being stored in variables? Something where the information is being updated on a continual basis based on maybe the user interaction with the app. Go ahead and do that and then come right back here. So then I want you to go ahead and move on to level three, bubble three, and do these things. You're going to read through the code. It says your assigned section, but if you're working on your own, just go ahead and read through all of the code. And you want to make sure that you understand everything that's on there, understand how it works, and understand what is going on and how it is maybe updating things that are on the screen. And then come back here. All right, so let's take a look at this code together. I'm going to move that up real quick. First of all, on lines 2 and 3, we're creating new variables and going ahead and assigning them a starter value. So var creates the baggie, we name the baggie, and then the equal sign assigns a value into the baggie. So we have 70 is our starting temp, and this is just an empty string that we're setting for the starting value of temp F. Then on line 7, we have an on event that's created for whenever the down button is clicked. When the down button is clicked, the temp variable decreases by 1. Then the temp F variable is updated with the current value of temp joined with the letter F. It is concatenated. The text on the screen is set to display the value stored in the variable temp F, and a sound is played. Down to line 16, an on event is created when the up button is clicked, and in this case, the temp variable is increased by 1, and everything's pretty much the same. And this slide is showing you a GIF that is going through exactly how to add a watcher to the bottom right-hand corner of your screen whenever you're on code.org. You see where it says watch. They're speeding it up. You're going to type in there the actual name of the variable and then just hit the plus button. And you'll notice as you run the program, this is keeping track of what is inside that baggie at all times. What's the current value of that variable at all times? And then the last thing you do on bubble 3 is to change the degrees by 2 whenever the up and down arrow are clicked. Next, move on to bubble 4. You're going to run the app and see what is different this time, what's been changed. Then I want you to find the math.round command and think about how it is working, and we'll come back here. Note that in your instructions here, it says delete the math.round and on lines 3, 15, and 28, but see the tip below for what this will look like. So if you scroll down, there's another GIF there showing you, can we get a little bit smaller? Not much, showing you that you want to switch to text mode to delete the math.round, and that is an easier way to do it than trying to figure out how to take the block out of there. What is the math.round command doing? It is rounding a given value to the nearest integer. And lastly, it wants you to modify the code so that no space displays between the temperature and the F over here on the screen. Next, you're ready for bubble 5. On this one, you're going to run the app, and again, you're going to try to predict the information that's being stored in variables. And now we have bubble 6. Bubble 6, you're going to read the code for this new version of the app and think about what's changed, what stayed the same. And then I want you to come back here and we're going to discuss how the get text function works on line 40. So let's look at line 40. Here we have a variable called my name, and what we want to put in the value of that variable is the string hi, comma, space, and we're going to concatenate it with a get text command. Get text is taking text that's entered in the name input element. Where is that? It's right here, this little input box. What's it doing with that? It's adding it to the word hi, and then it's setting it in the text of username text, which I believe is on the home screen right here. So currently it says, hi, Lola. If you enter your name in there, it should replace it right there with, hi, your name. And lastly, on this bubble, you're going to add an exclamation point to the end of the string that's stored in username, in username. No, my name. And if you're not sure how to do that, I would suggest switching to text mode. It is a little easier to concatenate when you're in text mode. We're working with line 40. So my name, hi, comma, space. Think of every single thing that you want to display, plus, and then this is where we're going to collect the person's name. But after that, we want to do another plus and then a new string with just exclamation point. And I think that's everything. So what we have here is a couple of patterns. First of all, the counter pattern with the event. So anytime we have an app that we want it to count up every time something specific happens, we can use this as kind of our starting point for creating that code. You start out introducing a variable, giving it a 0 starter value, and then creating an on event where when something is clicked, that variable is updated by 1. And that's really all it needs if that's all your program is supposed to do. It shows in text over here, but blocks explain it a little bit easier. In another case, if you want to concatenate two strings that are values of variables, in this case, we have two variables, my string and my other string, and each of them have a starter value. We have rock, we have roll. So then in order to concatenate those two strings in whatever way we want to, we would create a new variable called my story, or whatever you want to call it. And then we would concatenate everything. Here we're taking the value of my string, which is rock, adding a new string, space and space, and then adding my other string, which is currently roll. So the result of this would be rock and roll. Now remember that a computer, whenever you add that plus sign, it's just going to take the two values and put them right there together without any spaces, and that's not what you want. So you got to make sure that whenever you concatenate, that you add spaces uh, between words. Or between, in this case, we know that rock is going to print here. We want to make sure there's a space before the next word. Now, you can find those tips on Help and Tips on many of your pages. This is counter patterns with event, variable with string concatenation pattern, so that if you forget what your starter code needs to look like, you can go there and find it. But to wrap up, what can be stored in a variable? We know that strings and numbers can be stored in a variable, but we can also concatenate in a variable and combine several different strings or strings and numbers and other variable values into our concatenation and create or add that value to a variable. Why is using a meaningful name for the variable important? Why do you not just want to call it Bob? Because people are going to read your code. Even you are going to read your code, and you're going to need to remember what that variable is and does, and what kind of information it's supposed to store. And especially if someone else is reading your code, they want to know this variable is called my number times two. Probably what's stored in that variable is some other number multiplied by 2. And so it just makes it easier, cleans up your code.